Certificates and checklists in a kitchen help you comply with the law and help you manage the operation of the kitchen. These checklists are designed to prove due diligence in food safety of the kitchen. These are for your use and not for the auditors. Remember, the law requires that you prove that you are not negligent in causing food poisoning and not the other way around. The consumer does not need to prove that you made them sick. Negligence here means that you do not have an active management system in place that prevents food poisoning. Having up-to-date records shows that you have an active management system. Any facility involved in preparation, handling or transport of food is required to have an inspection done by an environmental health officer who checks that you comply with the minimum requirements as set out in the R638 regulation. A certificate is issued if compliance is met, but this does not mean that once you obtain a certificate that you are not required to continue complying with the requirements, which are essentially to prevent food poisoning from 3 possible sources: biological, chemical, and physical contamination. The FCS audit has all the legal requirements and best practice to help you prevent food poisoning. The certificate is issued to a person in charge, and the law requires that the certificate be displayed or is immediately available on site. The certificate is only valid if the person in charge is still in charge of that facility. Having your name on the certificate means that you are ultimately responsible for the food safety of the kitchen. It is you that receives the fine or jail time for non-compliance if proven that the kitchen was negligent in causing food poisoning. The certificate shows that the ducting within the canopy has been cleaned in order to minimize grease buildup that can cause severe fires. It is not required by law, but is required for insurance purposes in the event of a fire. The cleaning companies set the requirements for the frequency of cleaning, but it is usually 3 months, 6 months, or annually, as determined by the amount of grease buildup. The first aid kit is required by health and safety requirements for immediate first aid of staff as well as customers. It is also important to remember burn gel, which is not listed in the health and safety requirements. An on-site clinic is suitable, but it is recommended that the minimum of plasters, gloves, burn gel, and bandages be kept. A monthly stock list is required to prove that the stock is checked regularly so that the sufficient stock is available in an emergency. An oil monitoring kit is required, and either strips or a color chart must be used to measure the quality of the oil. A checklist showing how often the oil is being changed is also required.
How to fill in an oil checklist? Use oil shortening test strips or color chart. Measure the quality according to the above and ask, has the oil been correctly strained? This is to filter or clean the oil for reuse. Is it still suitable for use? In other words, is it still yellow? If dark, then use a test strip to confirm replacement. Was the oil discarded?
Chemical usage training must be provided by the chemical company. This is usually a free service provided by your supplier, and all staff need to be trained in basic cleaning and sanitizing. This should be done at least once per year, but ideally every 6 months and for all new staff. Food safety training must be provided by a reputable individual and must be certificated. The person in charge must have full food safety training by an outside source, which is an accredited training. All other staff members need to be trained internally, and training must cover at least the food safety pillars, which is cleaning and sanitizing, personal hygiene, temperature control, food storage, and food handling. A training register for both chemical and food safety training must be kept, including a cover letter explaining what was trained on. This FCS training is suitable for the basic food safety training requirements for staff, but not for the person in charge. A digital probe thermometer must be available and used to measure temperatures. The law requires one to prove that the core temperature of foods are correct. This means a laser gun thermometer cannot be used as it only measures surface temperatures. The digital probe thermometer must be verified for its accuracy once per month. You cannot do a verification on a laser thermometer as per above. However, how do you do this? You need to measure ice water and record the reading, measure boiling water and record that temperature. So why are these temperatures? These temperatures are known temperatures that you can verify against. Ice is usually between 0 to 2 degrees Celsius. The boiling point of water is between 92 and 96 degrees Celsius. At the coast, this will be closer to 100 degrees Celsius, and the higher up you go, the lower the boiling point. Twice daily records are required for all fridges and freezers. Remember that foods can expire within 6 hours in warm fridges, and so fridge temperatures should be a maximum of 4 degrees Celsius. Fridges containing fruits and vegetables at a maximum of 7 degrees Celsius. The freezers at minus 12 degrees Celsius. Freezers containing ice cream at minus 18 degrees Celsius. And refrigeration records should be recorded with decimal readings to show that the thermometer is being used to record these temperatures. Corrective action must also be taken for warm fridges and freezers and recorded on the checklist. Corrective action means removing foods from a warm fridge and placing them in a working fridge and reporting to maintenance. It is not good enough just to fill in checklists. There must also be something that is done to fix or correct the problem and minimize the risk. At least 4 hot and cold foods must be recorded 1 hour into service with the sanitized digital probe thermometer. This is to check that the foods are being displayed correctly and not to check that the foods in the fridge are correct or that the foods are cooked at the right temperature. These are to check the holding temperatures of foods. These are filled in on a separate checklist if required. All delivered goods, perishable and dry goods, must be checked and recorded. Batches of each item delivered is suitable. However, the delivery truck must be checked for cleanliness, packaging must be checked, dates and or batch codes must be recorded, and dates must be within the required time of usage. In other words, you are wasting money if you do not check this. Temperatures of perishable and frozen goods must also be checked. Pierce, open or use a pack temperature of 1 item per delivery and check with a sanitized digital probe thermometer. Record this temperature. You are checking the actual product to check if the cold chain has been maintained. Measuring the truck temperature does not prove this. If the cold chain has not been maintained, there is no guarantee that the foods will keep within the expiry or best before dates. You are also taking the risk on of the supplier if you choose to accept these goods. It is very difficult to prove negligence on behalf of a supplier that causes food poisoning than it is for the kitchen. The kitchen will be the first company to lose its reputation. Goods that do not meet the standard should not be accepted and or should be returned to the supplier. Greater than 10 degrees Celsius or warmer than minus 12 degrees Celsius should not be accepted. The pest control company must provide a PCO or Pest Control Officer certificate for the persons performing the pest control duties. This certificate shows that the person is registered with the Agricultural Department and is the correct person to use the chemicals used for the pest control. A service report must be made available indicating what chemicals were used and where they were used. Services must be within 4 to 6 weeks. The chemical supplier must service the automated dispensers of the dishwasher, manual scullery, and the clicker mix for the spray bottles. A service report shows that a titration was performed for the dishwasher chemicals and that the remaining dispensers are working correctly. Test strip tests for the sanitizers QAC and chlorine must be performed. This is in your interest to ensure that the chemicals are mixing correctly. Remember, too much chemical is expensive and too little chemical is ineffective.
A cleaning schedule covering all the areas of the kitchen, showing how often areas must be cleaned and who is responsible for the cleaning must be available. Cleaning procedures showing how to clean and what chemicals to use to perform various tasks is also required, showing all the different types of cleaning and sanitizing tasks. A daily cleaning checklist showing if areas were cleaned or not, and if not cleaned should be marked with an X and have corrective action. Checklists that show that everything is clean is not a true reflection of a kitchen and either shows inaccurate recordings or false results. The checklist should cover all areas as per a schedule and should be marked against the schedule. This checklist will help you manage the cleaning effectively, prove due diligence, and is used as a management tool to highlight poor performance. Appoint one person to certain duties. This allocates responsibility and therefore accountability for the work done. Without this, you will find it very difficult to resolve problems. A material safety data sheet should be kept on file and available for all chemicals used in the kitchen and should be provided by the chemical supplier.
The corrective action report is designed as a working tool for your kitchen's hygiene and food safety. The corrective action lists all of the findings in the report organized into critical, major, and minor non-conformances. This shows that the critical concerns must be fixed before major and minor concerns. The corrective action report must be filled in and signed off by the person in charge to be reviewed by FCS in the next audit. This document is designed to help you fix problems in an organized way. The highlighted areas may not be all the problems in the kitchen, and other issues can creep up at later stages. It is always best to understand and review all requirements in the FCS audit. Food from large batches of cooking should be retained for testing should there be a complaint of food poisoning. At least 100 grams of the food must be kept for 3 to 7 days. For a buffet, daily samples must be kept of at least 4 hot and 4 cold foods. Any large batch high-risk foods should be kept that are prepared by the kitchen.